welcome everybody. I'm Lucian Fogoros. I'm the co-founder of IoT World, and we're excited to have you join today. First off, thank you for joining from wherever place you're at. If you want to let us know where you're at, feel free to post it in a chat. So this session is recorded and made available on demand. I want to take this opportunity to thank the sponsors and the speakers for today. We have an exciting agenda ahead of us, from the future of smart cities to how to keep them sustainable, carbon free, how to keep them safe, leveraging metaverse. So I won't get into the agenda. You've seen a little bit in the agenda. I want to take this opportunity and turn it over to Ling Lee, who will moderate this panel for today. So Ling, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Thank you very much, and welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us today in this session, How Startups Shape the Future of Smart Cities. My name is Ling Lei, and I'm a Principal Program Manager at Amazon Web Services. I'm currently running a Smart City Partner Pilot at AWS, where we look at how do we identify our partners and support them with innovating and building these awesome smart city solutions on AWS Cloud. So hopefully, some of our speakers today have already built their solution on AWS, but we look for more startups who will be doing so as well. I'm very excited to welcome you today at this session of the IoT World Smart Cities and Buildings Day. If you don't know already, IoT World is the leading authority on industrial IoT, and it's a digital media outlet bringing the latest industrial IoT virtual conferences and content to a global community of 283,000 plus decision makers and influencers. So thank you very much to IoT Worlds and the sponsors for bringing us the session today. Just some of the housekeeping matters, if you don't remember already. We're taking questions at the conclusion. So please post those into the Q&A tool, not in the chat, Q&A tool instead, so that it would be easier for me to pick those up and convey them to our speakers. And we'll run up till the end of the hour. We'll make sure that we are on time so that you can get to the next session. So without further ado, let's dive into our topic today. Yeah? As you all know, we're all here because we have big love for cities. And cities are the heart of this global quest for sustainability. Cities are responsible for 2/3 of the world's overall energy consumption and an estimated of 70% of all greenhouse gas emissions. Especially in this current climate with COVID-19, city governments are under increasing pressures to find smart cities, smart solutions to achieve a more environmentally sustainable city with a higher quality of life. So suddenly that term smart city, which used to be such an utopian concept, is now gradually becoming a reality. And so today we are meeting 6 entrepreneurs with very innovative startups who are making this term smart city a true tangible reality. But I was thinking, in the true spirit of startup, instead of me reading to you a long biography of each of these speakers, which you can already read on the agenda of the event, let's ask each of them to introduce themselves by sharing their vision of what smart cities look like to them and what they are doing to make it happen. So let's start with Joe Scanlon, the CEO of Scan Analytics. Joe, over to you.
Thank you. So my name is Joe Scanlon, CEO of Scanalytics, and I want my future smart city to be comprised of buildings that are energy efficient without having to compromise on occupant comfort and productivity. And so we at Scanalytics are helping with that by creating advanced materials that are embedded into the surfaces of those buildings to be able to measure in a privacy first way, measure very granular information about how those buildings are being used by occupants, so that things like ventilation and lighting can react to that more effectively and become more energy efficient.
Awesome. Next, I would like to invite Madison Sutlow, Chief of Staff at Carbon Upcycling Technologies. Madison?
Everyone, my name is Madison Savlo. I am Chief of Staff at Carbon Upcycling Technologies, and I want my future smart city to be resilient. At Carbon Upcycling Technologies, we're doing that by taking the waste of today to build a better tomorrow by using gaseous CO2 and sequestering that into material to create advanced construction additives.
It's very interesting, and that is very different from the other solution that you'll be hearing today. Next, Filippo Ferraris, co-founder of Enerbrain.
Very nice to meet you. I'm Filippo Ferraris, a co-founder of Enerbrain. As mentioned, I want the city of the future to be sustainable. It's a well-abused word, but the concept is to make sure that the future cities will use only the energy that is needed without a compromise on comfort and on well-being and on using the city in the best possible way for humans. So we do that by using artificial intelligence and very advanced technologies to control better heating, cooling, and ventilations. So Enerbrain is a plug-in solution that reduces energy consumption in buildings.
Awesome. I like to shout out that Enerbrain is built on AWS. I just have to do that.
Of course.
Sorry.
Absolutely. Very proud.
Next up, very proud. Next up, Sigalit Mutsafi, CEO and co-founder of Rad Green.
Hi. I'm Sigalit Mutsafi from Rad Green Israel. I want my future of smart city to be healthy for the people that are living and visiting the city that are becoming, well, all cities becoming more and more crowded with time. And we're building for this a solution to both monitor, analyze, and give people the awareness and the notification of where and how they should act according to the environmental situation in this building or city. So each has its own information according to what he needs and what he can do about this.
That's awesome. Thank you, Sigalit. Then I will invite another compatriot of yours, Amos Koskas, the founder and CEO of SaveU. Amos, over to you.
Thank you very much, Lynn. Thank you for having me here today with you. So Amos Koskas, as you said, I'm the CEO and founder of SaveU, broadcasting today from Israel, Tel Aviv. My future city is obviously safer, the one that people can feel empowered and safe, much more safer than what we know today. We'll do that with implementing of cutting-edge technologies on a SaaS platform that will enable the city to allocate, to plan their resources and how they protect their citizens easily, cost-effective. And that's my purpose. That's my goal in life at the moment. Thank you very much.
I like that very much. Thank you. And last but not least, Abel Saminego, founder and CEO of Double. Abel,
hi, everyone. Thanks for having me here. Yes, Abel Samaniego, so founder and CEO of Double. So I would like to see our cities being obviously decarbonized and then keep it this for the future, right? So more sustainable. And on Double, we're contributing at it's like being able to operate the energy systems in commercial buildings, like also Filippo mentioned, and HVAC in a more efficient way. So very important to use the legacy equipment of buildings. We are starting with commercial. We are starting with, as I say, using what we have already in the stock, and then we can build after that. So hopefully we can reach out together here soon these goals.
Thank you very much. And as you can see, the vision are maybe different, maybe very broad, maybe very specific. But at the end of the day, we all want our future cities to be sustainable, to be safe and resilient. And today we'll explore in depth some of these solutions and some of these concepts as well, because some may be very, very new to some of us. So the way from what I've heard from what you all have shared, I think there are two main key things as we go about building our smart cities and ensuring that everyone do the same. One is to increase the awareness, right, of what's around us, of how things are, right, so that based on those insights, we can then move on to the second part, which is to react accordingly, right, so that we can continue to make it safer and more sustainable. So let's dive into some of the very interesting solution here. Let's start with space utilization through scan analytics. Joe, as you described, right, you are increasing the awareness of the space that we use with your built world operating system. Right? How does that differ from the traditional building management systems that we often see around us?
Sure. Yeah. So, I think most people are thinking about buildings, sort of, I guess, bereft of intelligence, right? Like that they're not thinking about it like we might think about how we have a biological brain where we get all these signals and then we get to react to those signals and find some sort of happy equilibrium with whatever we're doing. Whereas buildings and building management systems, that it's much more sort of limited in that conversation by just saying, I want something to happen based off of something that I know as a human observer of that space. So if I know that most people are sort of coming in the day and starting their work at 8 or 9 a.m. and leaving at 5 or 6 p.m., I can use a building management system to sort of manually adjust those things or have those things happen. Versus, a true operating system, what the way that we see it at Scanalytics is for a building to have that, it needs to have a very constant, high granular, and consistent sort of understanding of how people are using it and where they're at. But that needs to happen at a level that goes way beyond just what a camera can see, where a camera can see, which may be more important, or tracking smartphones or anything else that's sort of in the hands of the occupant. And so that's what Scanalytics is doing, is we figured, okay, everyone is sort of navigating the space and using the space and interacting with the surfaces, and the floor surface is a very interesting one to be able to help build that operating system, so that if we know how everyone is consuming that space, we think that there are plenty of innovators that will be able to build interesting applications on top of that intelligence. And one of them, of course, being the better use of just strictly just occupancy in zones, so that ventilation, lighting, et cetera, can operate based off of that, versus today, which is much more like, do I detect motion or not? And if I do or don't, then I do those things.
I think you could also elaborate more on the level of granularity that Scanalytics solution actually goes into, so everyone can.
Yeah, so you can think of our sensor as almost turning the entire floor surface into a touch screen with a pixel resolution of 4 square inches. And so that's important because when it comes to the human footstep or foot size and the paths that we create by walking, that 4-inch pixel resolution gives us the ability to have accuracy, in the ballpark of 99.95% plus. And by doing that, then we have a lot more confidence in the ability to control the other things that are connected to the environment inside of a building. And so, the pixel size, as well as the fact that we don't know that person's name, we're not taking a visual image of them, allows us to also cover much more of that building than other, technologies might be able to do, like, bathrooms, conference rooms, fitting rooms, or whatever the building might be.
Super interesting. And so when I think of your solution, I always think of it as the ceiling and the floor. And then when I visualize Siglit's solution and the dashboard, it's really everything that surrounds us, right? Siglit, can you tell us a bit more about the dashboard and how it connects people to the environment we are in, especially in this context of COVID-19?
Sure. So as well, it was just been spoken by Joe. Building awareness and the ability of everyone to consume this data about the environment, that actually, if we are not measuring and showing this with the user interface that people can consume, then we cannot really democratize this data. So this is like a basic line that we have to start with. The data should be there and clear to everyone to consume. So we're showing everything with the most comprehensive solution. So it's air quality, noise, radiation, climate, thermal comfort, light, and also parameters that affects people's health, like the ability of COVID virus to sustain this room. So how much is this room ventilated right now? Is it enough? Is it not enough? What can we do about this? So there are multiple solutions. This is like analyzing and delivering the data to the facility management software, and immediate alerts to the people that are in charge of the space or to the person that is using this specific room. So it's all around this, having the data shown and increasing the awareness.
Definitely. However, I'm sure that members have thought of how to increase the awareness of the actual materials that go into the buildings around us. And that's where I want to come in, invite Madison to come in. Your, I would not say your solution, but your innovation that CUT built are absolutely fascinating of how you're using CO2 and what, as your tagline say, the waste of today to build the city of the future. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, for sure. I think I might be the only panelist with a hard tech solution. So it's definitely in the material space, but essentially what we have is a carbon utilization technology where we take CO2 and we're basically converting that into a permanent sequestered powder material. So we're turning that gas into a solid material, which can then be used in the concrete sector. Our material itself is able to reduce the amount of cement used in concrete. And just to give you an idea, concrete is the second most used substance on Earth other than water. And right now we're going to see the built environment double in size by 2060, which is about a rate of building one New York City every month for at least the next 30 years. So it's a huge opportunity for us to reduce the amount of carbon emissions coming from the concrete sector. Concrete itself makes up about 8% of global emissions. So by reducing the amount of material we're using and using low carbon or carbon negative material, we're able to reduce that footprint quite significantly. So that's really what we're trying to achieve. And we do have performance benefits with our material so that it's stronger, it's longer lasting. So that's when we get into the talks about resiliency and what that means for a city to be stronger and be able to combat climate change as these natural disasters and whatnot are happening as well.
I absolutely love that, because actually that's usually the missing bit of our efforts to grow towards sustainability, right? Because I guess what I would consider your solution is also sit between being aware of the materials that we use, but also the active choice of choosing these particular resilient materials is also one of our reaction to enhance sustainability and resilience. And that brings me to the second side of our type of solution, which is how do we react to improve safety and sustainability. I'll start with Enabrain, Filippo. With your solution, how are we driving energy efficiency with it?
Yeah, I think what Madison shared was really, really exciting, because we definitely need to look at the future of buildings in the sense how we build them in the future in the next 30 years, as you shared. But if you look at our cities, if you look outside the window, well, 99% of the buildings are already there, they are built. So what should we do with them? And IoT and the new technologies and AWS, as you mentioned it before, could provide a solution. We built a solution that is using artificial intelligence, advanced algorithms, to take the data that we can from all different solutions, from our sensors, but also from the building itself, process it in the cloud. And thanks to cloud computing, we can really make a difference in changing the settings in real time to shape the way the buildings behave. So at the moment, we are able to reduce by 20 or 30% energy savings in any type of buildings, from a small supermarket all the way to a very large factory, right? And with anything that you can imagine in between. We're very proud to work with schools to also help kids to learn about energy and energy usage for the future generations. But what I think is interesting in my vision, in our vision, the cities of the future will become totally reactive to the environment. So imagine a cloud passing over the city. Well, all the buildings behind and under the cloud would react in real time to adjust the settings, to use better energy. There will be no solar panels producing, so you can use batteries, you can use the batteries from electric vehicles, and this orchestration can be done by a cloud computing system. This is what we're working on in Enerbrain.
Awesome. I want to turn to Double, because Able, your solution is also in the same range, sharing the same objective with Enerbrain. How do you differentiate that from the Enerbrain solution?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think very important to highlight that I love what Enerbrain does. So nothing to say. We think we are all in the same in parallel doing. We are even going a little bit more to the extreme, right? So Enerbrain is making the brave step of going to the buildings as well, and when it's necessary, installing the hardware. We are really focusing on nailing only pure software, maybe trying to reach a little bit less of the market, but trying to have the mission of having a huge impact in the next 3 to 5 years, right? So trying to be really maybe more laser focus on even more what we have in the stock, right? Let's try to improve 5, 10, 20% very, very fast, that we can have an impact that we need to decarbonize. And then we go into the phase 2, also collaborating with companies like Enerbrain or others, that we can add other parts. It's also necessary. So it just, we all have different solutions that we need to collaborate and going in parallel. But at the end, I like to hear that we are all having or sharing the vision of going in a more comprehensive, but also interactive, reactive city or systems on buildings. Because to be honest, I think we are also kind of on the 80s, right? In buildings, we need to bring them to 2022, and we have a lot of work to do. So there's some kind of yeah, exactly.
Definitely. I'll come back to the point of collaboration in just a bit. But before that, I want to definitely not to forget one of the very interesting solution that Amos and team are bringing, which is how to then react to incidents, reacting to what's happening around us. And so, Amos, can you tell us a little bit more about Seivu? How are you making city safer and at scale?
Well, so let's start to understand what is a safe city and break it to a process which is most important in our case, and this is response time. So let's try to visualize it. So you have a person. It's not a user. It's a person in a point of time in a certain location, and this person, he has a problem. Now this person is in one place, and then you have the first responder or the organization that needs to help him and is in another place, and between them we have what we call a response time, and of course a lack of knowledge in the side of the first responders. It does not know what happened. So we need to put a platform on it. We need to put a platform that will pour knowledge on all of the participant people in this process, where we need to have the response time and we have to cut it significantly. So we use SaaS, we use software, we use application, we use any IoT device that allows us to report an emergency in a very detailed way. Like we're using video, audio, text, location, insights from raw data to put this knowledge on the participants. And what happens is this gap that we see at the beginning, where we see a city that we perceive to be not safe, on the contrary to a city that uses Seivu, so the response time is being cut. So they get close to each other. They know better what happened. They know exactly where to get to that person in a very accurate way, even if he's inside a building, in a certain floor, in a certain room, and it doesn't have, let's say, a GPS signal. Still, we need to get to that person and very fast. So from our experience, we cut this response time by, and listen carefully, 70%. And how are we doing that? So we are we'll make the reporting much more accessible. We give a variety of tools to those who are reporting an emergency. We give the platform, which is SaaS enabled with AWS and GCP that analyze the data in real time. We don't serve raw data, we serve insight. So the first responders and decision makers can know in real time what is happening, to who, where, what is happening. Just for example, if you were talking to the system and say, hey, I'm having a problem, I just saw my neighboring building is on fire, so the system would analyze it. And so people would understand faster, would know how to go to the relevant location much faster. And this is how we are handling safe cities at scales. And we see the improvements that we bring to the city from the second day that we are actually deploying the system. So it's immediately. Thank you.
I love that. Especially, I've worked on a number of city safety project, and I think a lot of time is how to design a solution that really at scale, because it's really, safety is a responsibility of everyone. And without everyone's participation in and contribution and scale, it's harder to make it a reality.
It also related to the resources that the city can allocate to their problem. So first thing, you don't have to say, hey, I have this solution, take it. The first question is, what is your problem? What are you dealing with? And then if you plan or design the solution according to the pain, the allocated resources would be much more efficient in solving that problem.
That actually brings up a very interesting point, so let me start with that point immediately with you, because you brought it up. When you talk about your solution and your vision, and then realizing that, who are the main stakeholders that you think are key in this journey to make it happen?
First of all, we have to understand that responsibility is something that people are avoiding from in general. And the first person in that city that wants to consider to be much safer is the mayor. So if the mayor of that city, and of course we have the CICO, and we have the head of security, and we have the call takers and the first responders, everyone's important. But the most important stakeholder is the mayor. Is the one that is being elected, is the one to tell the citizens, look, I'm taking care of you. It's important to your pain is important to me, not once in 3 or 5 years, depends on the time it takes to get re-elected, but in the everyday of activities in that municipality, in that city. So I think the main stakeholder is the mayor and his deputies that are related to logistics, security, etc. And I think we have to address this stakeholder first when designing such a solution.
That's interesting, because what I've heard also is that you have the lowest level, which is everyone, right? So every citizen of the cities would have a stake in it and then participate using the smartphone. And you also have the public sector, this decision maker at the very top, where you can ensure that such a solution is implemented. I find it very interesting because yours is the only one that focus on the public sector, whereas every other solution that we have here actually focus on commercial and especially real estate as the implementation for that. Let's start with Joe. Why do you have a specific focus on the commercial real estate versus the other, let's say, the public sector real estate, for example?
So, I mean, we do work, we've done work with the, and continue to work with the Department of Energy, ARPA-E. And in that program, the focus is on sort of any build. I mean, they've got a residential focus and a commercial focus. And so our solution, really, I think we look at it the same way that a lot of the other panelists do, which is that if it's a physical space, if it's part of that 93 or 95 billion square feet in just commercial space in just the US alone, let alone the world, that it's addressable in some way with some mixture of solutions or a starting point. And for us, the way that we look at it is that our solution might actually be adopted initially for a reason outside of energy management or motivation beyond energy management. I'll give you an example. We're doing some work with the senior living space where the same install base that we're talking about for our technology is interesting to a senior living building owner because they want to know, can I prevent a fall of one of my patients by understanding the deterioration of that person's gait over time and how they're moving through space. And so what we look to do is try to find, even if our sort of goal is help enhance sustainability, help move towards energy efficiency in these buildings. We're trying to also find other motivations that will get technology like this installed so that being able to sort of turn that on becomes even easier. And then position it where also our solution of saying if we're saving 20 to 30% energy on this, that our recapture will come from those savings and not have it be a solution that requires, is this CapEx or OpEx or how is this going to be paid for? And that's also another reason why we're focusing ours on building materials. So materials that already exist in the space that can be optimized through this enhancement and installed the same way and leveraged the same way, be it retrofit or new building construction.
That's awesome. I will actually steal a question from the audience, from Steve, which I think is very, very timely and very interesting at this point. I assume you have all interacted with the city government at some level, in some way, in terms of building or rolling out your solution. So this is a question: how would you rate city administration's preparedness to transformation into smart cities in your markets? Do they have an innovation strategy in place? And I guess I will follow up with that as, do they have budget available? Do they have will? Do they have concrete actions? Whatever you see. So very quick assessment from your end. Is there anyone who wants to go first with this question? This is an out of the box question.
I can go with it.
Go for it, Abel.
Comment. We are based in Germany. I would say that everyone has some kind of the word or the plan on the table, right? But really taking action is lacking. So I don't see. I see a lot of we say talking, but not really acting. And we don't have time for that. So I would really ask everyone to really stop talking and start acting. It's very, very important. So we don't have time now for politics. It's time for action.
It's a very good point.
Maybe you can chip in with just one thought, which is I totally agree with Abel. Often cities are very slow in taking decisions, and especially, unfortunately, there is no long-term vision. So that is where probably private company can come in. We've seen a rise of energy performance contracts for energy efficiency in the public sector. That is a key element to accelerate transition. So ESCOs, energy service companies, can provide similar services. We work with many of them across Europe and across the Middle East and now in other countries, because for example, we provide the technology, but it is applicable to any technology that is creating energy savings. And energy savings can be packaged into a financial model, an energy performance contract, so that the city doesn't do any investment and share the savings between the private company and the city. So this is a very good model to accelerate this transition. Unfortunately, there is not enough, and we need to be faster, but this is a good answer from the public and the private sector to accelerate this.
So back to it, the same in how are you seeing corporations leading with the ESG goals? Because actually recently, I feel like I'm seeing more and more corporations, big and small, to focus on ESG goals, right? So that's usually one of the ways to quickly place these the solutions that we provide today in these companies. Do you see that same entry points using the ESG goal as the leading? And Sigalit, I see that you are nodding. Maybe you want to take this question. You are muted though. Yeah. Sigalit, you're still muted.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Yes, I was just showing the SDGs pin on my jacket. Absolutely, I see more and more corporates and also cities looking for ESG content, and they have a policy and they're looking how they can generate actions according to this policy. So everyone here in the panel can show something from the SDGs, and they can just leverage this in order to take some action. And also in regards to your previous question about how cities can move forward with innovations, I would like to say that in Israel, in Tel Aviv, we have the City Zone, which is the innovation hub of the city of Tel Aviv. They acknowledge that working with the city takes too long. The lead time is not fit for startups. And also you would probably have to go with the bid and all the procedures that are not compatible with a startup's lifetime. So in City Zone, they collect the startups with innovations that are compatible to what the city needs. And then they have like a shorter path to working with the municipality, connecting with the champions in the different municipal departments. And that's how they move this forward. And there's like a special path for this. So just from what we experience here. Thank you.
I could definitely sympathize with that. I've worked with public sector all my career, and even as someone who's very used to public sector, sometimes as we run projects, and here we're talking about infrastructure projects which are slow and lengthy in nature, they still sometimes it really feels there's a lot of hurdles, and that sometimes make me wonder. It's almost like a push and pull factor, right? So as much as the public sector is slow, how much can the startups community pull them faster from that sluggishness? Like what are the on top of my head, and this is something like totally not scripted, okay, for the audience. From on top of my head, I'm thinking if one of the ways are actually constantly showing the art of the possible, like what is out there, the demos, what can easily be done. But I wonder, from your experience, have you ever had any good experience getting your solution out quickly with any of the city stakeholders, or it's really doesn't exist? We can't have all bad experience, no?
Yeah, so I have a small advice for startups.
Okay.
When you start, try to go with a bigger partner that already implemented a solution, not necessarily something in your domain, but a solution with a municipality where you think you can examine or better test your solution. Go with them. It doesn't matter what stake or what part are they taking away in terms of revenue. It doesn't matter at the beginning, but go with a bigger partner, a partner that already implemented the solution inside the specific city. It would make your life much easier. That's my small advice for that, from my experience. Yeah.
That's a very good point. And in fact, it is the principle of the underlying the program that I'm building. which is to build a community of partners of AWS who work on smart city, because I always see it as, a big partner always have something that offer the smaller partner and vice versa. Right? You may have the big SI may have a platform, but they need very niche solution from the smaller partners, from the startups. And meanwhile, as a startups, we also rely on the bigger vehicles that can ride in to get you more exposure, more experience, more opportunities. So hopefully, that bond, that cooperation can be formed naturally through different platforms or different engagement that allow you to do so. This is a question I was thinking to put it at the very end, but I was wondering, what do startups actually need? And don't tell me, this is beyond, I guess, beyond funding, because I assume a lot of people in the audience, probably after hearing your solution today, would be very interested in investing. But other than funding, what do you actually need in terms of pushing your solution forward and making it a success? And in this one, I would definitely want to go. Let's go one by one. Maybe in 30 seconds, what do you and your company, or you think startups in general, need the most? Maybe we'll start with Joe, Scanalytics.
Yeah, I think I would just continue along the vein that we just discussed, which is the larger companies that are already servicing the city or the spaces that we want to get into, to find a way to pull up startups and pull them into the conversation, and kind of speak to the maybe second and third order effects of the positive effects that could happen by blending those solutions. So I think I would just tend to agree that having a bigger company that already has the path created help make that conversation, because like you said, it's much more difficult to have that when you're a few years old than when you have a company that's serviced the space you're trying to get into for decades. So
thank you. Madison?
Yeah, I would echo a lot of what was just said. I think it's really interesting in the concrete space because it's a very, very conservative industry. Just to give you an idea, the concrete mix actually hasn't changed fundamentally since the Colosseum was built. So we're still using the exact same materials and the same ingredients. And so working with larger companies that are able to be a first mover and really see the advantage of changing up some of their material use, that's huge. And so, yeah, if you get the backing of some of these larger companies and these strategic players within the industry, that's really what's going to be the most helpful in advancing some of these new tech in construction.
Very, very cool. Filippo?
Yeah, I totally agree. Because the conjunction of working with very large companies is a way to accelerate really innovation. All of the major players in every industry tries to do innovation. The problem is that they are very slow in doing innovation. So that is where startup can really contribute in the cooperation between a large player who really knows the pain points of the market in a small company that can be very fast in executing is a very good match. So I would say, in a word, the early adopters is what we need.
Very, very well put. Abel, any thoughts from you?
Yes, absolutely. I agree with sort of my peers. Adding maybe trying to find or building vehicles that transfer the leadership ideas or innovation till the workforce, right? Because sometimes you are not always every day talking with the CEO of the company, right? Even if the CEO now sees ESG, all of this, maybe transmitted this in a pleasing way in a large enterprise company, sometimes it's challenging. So I would put something maybe like we could understand that we can help on trying to be more transparent then and trying to find new ways on this leadership and helping them to find the champions that can make us to execute our innovations internally or put our solutions into the value chains faster.
It's very interesting with that. I heard more soft skill and exposure than actually technical skills. Sigalit, do you agree with what everyone has been saying?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with everyone. And I would also add that regulation can be also of help for enabling pilots with startups, with new innovations and new technologies. Sometimes regulation is a burden. So this can also be of help to enable, just starting a pilot will probably show how this technology works and will enable opening gates later. And corporations, absolutely, working with other companies will always get us faster to the market.
Interesting. And last but not least, I know you will share your insight earlier, but do you have any other particular point on what startups actually need towards success?
So I'll add focus. So entrepreneur now interacting with the city officials, he needs to stay focused and make sure that nobody will take his focus away, because you know what you need to do, you know your product, you know your company, and unless you have to pivot for something else, and that usually that's not the question, but you have to keep focus, because once you come to interact with those people, they will say, yes, but maybe you can do also this and that. Keep your eyes open, your ears open, and your eyes as well, but you have to stay focused, because the time that you need and the focus that you need for all of the participants and the stakeholders to actually participate in the processes that you're leading is very important. We have to keep it, and so I would add focus to that equation.
Definitely see. I could definitely see that the keeping focus on the end game, the goal, and which actually brings me to one of the last points before I look for some of the questions from the audience. What are the metrics of success for sustainability tech company? What would you consider success? And maybe I'll start with you, Madison.
I think from a sustainability perspective, I think measurable impact is really important. So once you've achieved that level where you can be transparent about that, I think that shows a level of success and a level of growth. I think the other thing too, especially being from the carbon utilization industry or carbon capture industry, it's really important not to have carbon tunnel vision. I think a lot of companies are focusing on that, but being environmentally holistic with our solutions is really key as well. So focusing on other material use as well, and any waste that comes off of our technologies is really important. So like water use and things like that. But yeah, I think that's really, really key, is to make sure that we're not just honing in on only one problem, where we're actually able to be holistic with our approach.
Interesting. Filippo, what about your company? What do you consider success for Enderbrain?
It's an interesting question. I think that one of the tricky parts is how to measure the KPI that you just asked. So, each one of us may have an understanding of what a kilowatt hour is, but probably not the general public. Not everyone is aware to grasp what is this reducing carbon footprint, or a ton of CO2. What is it? How can you taste it, right? So what we use as a KPI is the number of trees that are equivalent that we plant every time we reduce consumption in buildings. To give you an example, we control at the moment 100 public buildings in the city of Torino, just where we are. This is one example of a project we did. It is equivalent to double the trees of the city. So imagine an entire city doubling the trees of the parks. That is a KPI that we use to measure our sustainability.
Oh, something just happened. Oh, I see. Lucian just put up the big panel. Those are very, very interesting thoughts, and I fully sympathize with the biggest the immense challenge that you have in terms of building a business from scratch, from an idea into a huge a business and run it. So in the interest of time, I want to make sure that we have some of the questions from the audience here. Let me take a moment to read out some of these questions. Let's start with this one from a cybersecurity perspective, what is your primary concern in developing smart cities, and how do you plan to address it? And this is very interesting because we talk about working with government, and from the government perspective, as I understand it, one of the key concern is security. How are you addressing the question of security when it often comes to your solution? And let me start with maybe Abel.
Yes. Yes, sorry. I think maybe in the panel I'm not the expert on cybersecurity, but obviously it's very, very important to do it. In our case, we are making an end-to-end connection, so to actually from the cloud to the building, directly connected to the BMS network. So meaning it's physically separated from the IT network of the enterprise. So I obviously see a huge topic there, and we all have to make sure that we have the proper infrastructure on taking care, because obviously the influencing right now is still very early in the market, but we can end in a very complex dynamics, including, for example, balancing the grid, the energy, everything can be really connected. So you can find some kind of a leak there. It could be very, very dangerous. So we all have to keep going and keep working to keep this safe for everyone.
How about you, Joe? In terms of security for all of the data points that you collect and then visualize, how do you address, do you often get the question of cybersecurity, and how do you address that question?
Yeah, so by way of working with the government, of course, we that accelerated our on-premise, development to avoid a cloud relay that would create vulnerabilities. But in general, yeah, you're talking about, the IoT. You're talking about literally putting things on the internet, and that introduces or creates a cornucopia of like new devices that could be considered ways to get into a local network or to an entry point, if you will. So from our perspective, that matters a lot. And we have a joke internally that the S in IoT stands for security, because there just isn't really a huge focus on that out of the gates. Usually people are more focused on how can they get their thing online than they are, once it's online, what types of vulnerabilities will that create. So we're thinking about it quite literally on a device by device basis. How do we make sure that information is encrypted where it needs to be, protected where it needs to be, and sometimes not even online when it's not appropriate to be online.
Very interesting. And last, Amos, I think this security is underlying your solution, but on the flip side of it, what about privacy? What about what to do with the data that's available there?
First of all, we encounter not for the first time, not every day, but we do see an issue of privacy, or people are asking, "Are you following us?" So first of all, no. That's the immediate answer. But they need to understand that privacy is a key element of our offering, because once you break this trust and you even can cause someone penetrate their privacy or avoid their privacy, this is the end of the game for you. Nobody would download, nobody would implement, nobody would use this kind of solution unless you're keeping 100% of the user privacy. That's one. And even if you want to take a further step to avoid that, you can give the users solutions that completely anonymously, like they can use it anonymously. Like, for example, we now implementing a product where you can just scan the barcode and then you're automatically routed to the command and control that can assist you. So if you don't want to download any app, that's okay with us. If you want to gather and then erase your information, then you can do that in a click of a button, because your private information is not our interest, and we don't gather this information or, of course, give it to third parties. This is something that we want. We don't even put Google Analytics, so we won't have this leak of privacy for any reason. And we have to keep this 100% bulletproof for our users, not our clients, our users. And the difference is, I can tell you that one of our clients, it's a big corporate in the US, came to us and said, hey, you can help us to improve the efficiency of our field workers. And we asked, how do you want to do that? You say, hey, by tracking them, and then we can realize how much time it takes them to. And then we told them, like, this is not our solution. We trace our users only while in an emergency. We collect their voice, their movement, their everything only while in an emergency. So keeping the user's privacy is an obligation or something that we assure our users rather than our clients, not who pays us, but those who are actually using the platform.
Thank you. Definitely very challenging questions that you probably have to confront on a regular basis. Just like, actually, we have many interesting and other challenging questions in the lineup as well. But as time is drawing close to the top of the hour, I probably have to close the session now. We'll record all of these questions here and convey it to our speakers in the panel. And we'll get back to you on your questions. Today, panel has been very, very interesting for me. It's always fascinating, and not only that, I really admire, as I mentioned, I really admire startup such as yourself who are really shaping the future of smart cities. And it sounds cliche, but it really is. And I really wish you all the very best with your business. I hope that if you consider moving to AWS, this is the advertising, if you move to AWS and join my program for Smart Cities Partner, we can actually find ways to help you connect with other bigger companies, with other experts in the field, and support you technically, as well as with credit and cash to promote your business as well. And hopefully we can work together in the future. Thank you very much for your amazing insight and your time today. And thank you for the audience who've been very engaging and sending all these questions. I'd like to also thank the sponsors for the session. Your support really ensure that we have all of this great content to share. And now it's time to move into the next session, which is called Safer and Cleaner Cities with Innovative and Sustainable Mobility Solutions. So enjoy the rest of the IoT World Day conference today. And thank you again, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.